Stakeholders are calling on the federal government to confront the root causes of recurring violence in the Middle Belt and ensure justice is delivered without ethnic bias. Speaking at New Central's town hall meeting in Jos Plateau State, voices from across the region, community leaders and also conflict victims and security agencies gathered under the theme, One Middle Belt, One Voice, from action to action and justice, as residents in Plateau State are demanding urgent reforms, accusing Nigerian security agencies of failing in their core duty to protect lives. Amongst the demands, a nationwide ban on open grazing, a clear legal distinction between indigenes and settlers, and even a return to the 1963 Constitution. Now, for many, the message is clear. Nigerian security institutions owe the people an apology for years of underperformance. Now, let's, of course, bring in our guest for today. To speak on this, I'll be, of course, speaking with Chukwuemeka Ezike. He is the patron of the Civilian Joint Task Force. I also have Ishaya Inuwa-Durkwa, is the country director, peace building and social justice. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Durkwa. Thank you for having us here.
All right, let me start with you, Emeka. I mean, I remember that last week we started this conversation. We had Mr. Ishaya-Durkwa on the program, and we got his own perspective of what he considered the root cause. So, I mean, you are part of the Civilian Joint Task Force, so maybe you can even, enlighten viewers at home from a security angle. What do you consider the root cause of what we're seeing when it comes to attacks in the Middle Belt?
That is a very important question, because without knowing the roots, then how do you figure out the solution? First of all, this was like a reason of, started as a situation of the desert desertification in the north, where there was limited grazing land for the herders. And they decided to move around the nomad lifestyle to find more favorable land for the herds to graze on. But the situation became very, it became like, oh, come and become our neighbor. And from being the neighbor, it became a situation of, people hijacking a good relationship to become an unpeaceful one. What does that mean? I think the situation also can be blamed on, not early identifying the situation, the early identification of the situation by the government that, oh, there was crisis for maybe the grazing of, for people to find grazing land for their herds. And this led them to start seeking for their own form of solution to, kind of enforce that we must find grazing land in another territory. And the only way they could find the solution was to kind of engage in military actions, which now led to a lot of bad actors hijacking the situation and turning it to, what we see today as disruption in a lot of peaceful communities around the Middle Belt.
All right, Emeka, I'm going to come in here. You used the word bad actors. I would like you to expatiate on who these bad actors are, briefly.
Difficult to identify who the bad actors are from just sitting down on this place too. But I'm sure there are a lot of high intelligent people in the security agency who would have done over the decades of this situation, or like over 10 years of this situation. I've been able to identify that there are some bad actors who are fueling this situation for either personal gains or for personal. It could be from neighboring countries, or you never can say from a TV station just you can make such claims, or So, but what I know is that when a situation keeps fueling this way, there must be bad actors who are silently sitting down somewhere in the high halls and because I asked someone, how do a regular herder be able to afford an AK-47? Or, someone who has not been able to, who lives, who his earning capacity doesn't show that he can be able to afford a weapon. Who would now engage this guy with a weapon? So there must be people who sit in a very, peaceful surrounding that are able to foil this situation.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for that, Emeka. Let me, of course, go to Dr. Inuwa-Durkwa, is the Country Director, Peace Building and Social Justice. Doctor, it's great to have you. Now, there are calls that, maybe what could actually, in a way, de-escalate what we're seeing as regards these attacks is a return to 1963 Constitution. I mean, if one looks at the magnitude of these attacks, for instance, that of Yawata that happened sometime in June 2005, which of course is this area suspected had a lynched coordinated assault on, that community, killing over 200 persons. I mean, you look at the magnitude of the scale of the attacks, the level of coordination. How do you think a return to this constitution might be able to address this issue?
Okay, yeah, thank you. I am not one who likes talking about semantics and use of words. I don't like that. I will tell you that Constitution is a document. It's a lifeless document. It's people that give document to Constitution. It therefore means that even if we revert back to 1963 Constitution, if the people who are supposed to give life to the Constitution are not being honest, are not being sincere, and are not willing to see that the statements in the Constitution are active and used without fear or favor, if they are not willing to see justice flowing like a river in our nation, we are not going to see anything. Because I can tell you for free, even the Constitution, 1999 Constitution, as amended that we have, is utilized, Nigeria would be a safe haven. One of the opening statements in the Constitution that says we the people, and it goes on to begin to talk about the functions and duties of government, and it is stated without ambiguity that the cardinal duty of the government is to provide welfare and security for the citizens. And I tell you that on these two counts, our government in succession have failed woefully in seeing that this part of the Constitution is activated. So there is no security for the citizens, and even on count of welfare, Nigerians are suffering untold hardship. So what guarantee do we have that reverting back to the Constitution of 1963 is going to change anything in Nigeria? Look, let's stop chasing the shadows. We should stop majoring on the minors as against the major. The problem we have is that we are not telling ourselves the truth. The problem we are facing, and we are not telling ourselves, is that we are playing the ostrich, burying our heads in the sand and with all our bodies exposed, and we are claiming that we are hiding. We do not know that this thing that is ravaging communities is going to be at our doorpost next time. And this is the... You said
that, I'm going to pick it from what you said. You said the problem is that we are not telling ourselves the truth. We seem to bury our heads in the sand. What is the truth?
The truth is that government should provide security for the citizen. Government should provide welfare for the citizen. To what end do we have security system personnel? What is their function? What is their duty? Soldiers that are supposed to be in the barracks are everywhere on our streets harassing civilians who are not doing anything. The police are unable to do this. The mobile police have failed in doing this. And the people who are causing this mayhem with impunity have not been addressed. It is ordinary civilians who sometimes, out of pain and suffering, who are trying to protect themselves, that many a times are facing the wrath of the law. You go and check it, is everywhere, is the common knowledge of everybody. So the truth is that government is failing in providing welfare and security for the citizen, and is enshrined in the Constitution. So if they are not doing it with 1999 Constitution, what is the guarantee that 1963 Constitution is going to do it? I have studied both Constitution. I read it, great documents. All of them are well written, to be honest. Yes, there might be some 1, 2, 3 things in the 1999 Constitution that might not be very good, but if a fraction of our Constitution is implemented, Nigeria will be a safe haven. Here we are in this nation where the law is not certain, the law is not also objective. The law should be reasonable to a reasonable person, but that is not the case. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a legal person, but at least I have gone to school to know that a white is white, black is black.
All right.
But when you go to the courts, what you are seen as white can be nullified by technicalities. So these are the challenges that we are faced with, and we must tell ourselves the truth. So you ask me, what is the truth? The truth is that government should get up and perform her duty, that is to provide welfare and security for the citizens,
all right,
or she pack up. And other people who will be willing to do this, to do it.
Okay, I think when we return from this break, we'll definitely dwell into the aspect of security and the efforts of government in that regard, and look exactly, if at all, what exactly seems to be the missing gap in all of this. But we'll do that after this break. Stay with us. We will be right back. Many thanks for staying with us. It's still Politics HQ on News Central Television, and of course we are looking at the series of attacks in Nigeria's Middle Belt. We are trying to establish the root cause and a way forward. I still have my guest with me, Ishaya Inuwa-Durkwa is the Country Director, Peace Building and Social Justice, and Chukwuemeka Ezike is a patron with the Civilian Joint Task Force. Gentlemen, thank you for staying with me. All right, let me stay with you right now, Emeka. And, you know, while, of course, I'm speaking with you, we have a series of statistics from the SBM. I'd like that to come on the screen. I would, you know, want to do something right now. Let's look at the series of attack, you know, in the country over time and the level of escalation. Now, we'll be putting this alongside what has been spent to curb these attacks by different administrations. Let me start from 2019. We had about 589.9 billion naira approximately. That's about $1.63 billion, you know, as security, you know, expenditure on the budget. And then fast forward to 2021, went forward to as high as 772.60 billion naira. And then for 2023, 1.248 trillion naira. We can see an increase there in expense. Yet, we see attacks happen, you know, day in, day out in, unfortunately, these same regions. You can see a breakdown there of members of, you know, according to this report, Fulani headers, attacks, incidents per state. There you see the breakdown. Now, fast forward to 2025. On the budget, it was about 4.9 trillion naira. I mean, you are part of the, at some point, the security apparatus. There's a lot of resources pumped into this fight. What is going on? It seems Nigerians are not getting value for money. I mean, as a you know, combatant, what is the missing link here?
Hello. So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, when it comes to throwing numbers on digital screens and displaying the amount spent, it's different case on the execution. You know, we can display this, you know, arouse in numbers, you know, to get people to see that money is moving, but it's another thing to be able to identify the transparency of this execution. You can also maybe get the security officers who are always on the field and ask them, how is the welfare? Are you really getting improved weapons, improved equipment? It will be left for us to do that analysis. While we display the budget spent, we also need to display the execution. Can we get the data on the execution?
Maybe I'm going to ask you a direct question. Do you think, I mean, from your knowledge, do you think that Nigerian soldiers are well paid? Are they well remunerated? Are they motivated to fight?
There's no argument about that. No security agency is well paid enough to, you know, let's be sincere. We're looking at what the economy is stating now, and it's hard for an average soldier to save 100,000 naira a month.
Sorry, so, you said it's hard for an average soldier to save 100,000 naira a month?
Yes.
At what rank, please? At what rank?
I don't know, but just the cumulative, an average soldier it's hard for the average soldier. The top officers will be our men in the soldier. The low-ranking guys are more in numbers than the hierarchy officer. How many generals do you have? How many captains? How many colonels? But you have more sergeants, you have more RSMs, you have more corporals, you have more. So at the end of the day, the average of the soldiers will be the low-earning soldiers. So because you cannot have the same number of corporals or lance corporals you have compared to generals and all that. So at the end of the day, you find out that the low-paying soldiers will be the highest number in the military. We see a lot of them complaining that they can't easily even travel back to their families sometimes after their duties. So to be sincere, I don't think they're paid well enough. And this also not just the police, not just the military. I think the police and most of the security outfits. This is one of the reasons I decided to support the Civilian Joint Task Force, because when I identified them, I noticed that those people are also doing the duties they are selflessly, but also at some point they're not really getting even any support from major support from government. And as a young guy, nobody would expect me to look that way. And I was like, do you know what? Instead of looking at every other things in the economy, security is one of our major priority. I've seen it. I've been a farmer in Plateau State, Barrack and Ladin. I've firsthand witnessed herdsman crisis. So at the end of the day, because of those low incentives, I decided to become a patron of the Civilian Joint Task Force to find ways, the little way I can, to support those people and be able to I think security solution now has to be a collaboration force. I don't think we have enough personnel to even combat the current escalating crisis in our insecurity today. So I feel that more any way to support the security architecture is welcome. So to be sincere, there are a lot of things to be looked at. The numbers being displayed to me, it doesn't really matter anymore because we see the insecurity keep escalating. So it's more important that we stop, they become more sincere and start facing, because if we want foreign direct investment, if we want people to invest in the nation, security has to be solved. Security is important. Security, in short, is the bedrock of trust. So at this point, there is a disconnect with the spend, and there is from the execution. So I don't know.
Emeka, just before I leave you, quickly, let's talk about this call for people to be the push for people to be able to arm themselves, bear arms, right? Right to self-defense, and by self-defense, having access to weapons to protect themselves. I mean, you're a patron of the Civilian Joint. Do you think that should a move like this become law, will that help?
So I encourage, like when I was asked the same question, I encourage that the military to incubate more civilian military outfits to help fight security. The police has over, let's say, about 300,000 police. 300,000 police to fight a civil unrest for 200 million plus people. If you match the number, if you do the mathematics there, you find out that we don't have enough officers to even be on the streets, So at the end of the day, the police and the military, the DSS, the NSA has to find a way to start incubating civilian, because I think the local structure for security will really help optimize our security architecture, intelligence gathering and all that. The way a local in Benue State will understand this community will be, different from a trained soldier who comes from, let's say, Adamawa. It will take him time to be properly, get integrated into that local community. But which is still possible, it will just take him more time. But if a local is incubated into the military and trained properly, we should not arm people carelessly, because a lot of people are mentally unstable. We saw what happened with the security outfits in Anambra State.
All right.
People should be properly, educated and mentally checked before handling weapons. And Civilian Joint Task Force has a process before even recruiting people to be part of his member. It's not just anyone can be armed with gun in civilian. There's a process. You can't even hold the gun except you're on duty or you're actively engaging with a soldier. And if you read the history of Civilian Joint Task Force, it started about over a decade ago in Borno State, where they were supporting the military to fight against Boko Haram.
All right, thank you so much, Emeka. Let me leave you for a moment, and let me come back to Dr. Inuwa-Durkwa. Now, let's look at the role of traditional rulers, in all of this. They are the closest to the people. Most times, these attacks usually happen, in the hinterlands of these states. And the traditional rulers also bear, a bit of a brunt in all of this. So how much of a role do you think traditional rulers can play in, managing this situation?
Our traditional rulers institution is not what it used to be. So historically, traditional rulers are warriors who protect or lead their people to protect them and to make sure that there is harmony in the society to lead in settling disputes. But you know that all of these things have eroded with the erosion of values, which is a global phenomenon. And now many of the traditional rulers are stooges for government. They are appointed by government. Their stipends come from government. They cannot speak against social evils even when they are seeing them. These are common truths that we know. So the traditional institution is highly politicized. And so I will tell you that there is very little that they can do, as it were. I go back to those who are appointing them. I go back to those who are leading in the secular society. I go back to our democratic leaders. It goes back to their table. If we want to solve the security problem, let's stop talking about our traditional rulers who do not have arms, who do not have logistics to defend themselves, who themselves are being haunted by whoever the killers are.
So you're saying that traditional rulers in resolving this issue more or less play an insignificant role. Is that what you're saying, sir?
Oh, yes. I say it in the affirmative. The answer is yes. Let's talk about government. Have you heard state governors saying they are powerless, they are helpless, that the security of the state is not in their hands?
We'll definitely come back with this. We'll come back with this, we will. But let's go on a quick break. When we return, we'll pick up. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Many thanks for staying with us. It's still Politics HQ on News Central Television. And of course, we are looking at the series of attacks within the Middle Belt and trying to establish the root cause and the way forward. I still have my guests with me. Gentlemen, thank you for staying with me. Let me stay with you, Dr. Inuwa-Durkwa. Just, as brief as possible, preferably 30 seconds. Your final thoughts. What do you think is a lasting solution?
Nigeria is a cooking pot, and it is possible for all of us to live in peace. But we must sit in that pot and tell ourselves the truth. What do we want for this Nigeria? And what makes a person a Nigerian? Let's define those things and look at ourselves and tell ourselves the truth so that we can live in peace, so that we can prosper.
All right. Let me also direct the same question to you, to Emeka. Emeka, I mean, what do you, particularly from a security angle, what do you think is the way forward? How can we find a permanent solution?
I agree with Doctor. Nigeria is a cooking pot, and we have to come together and tell ourselves the truth. I think they should stop playing politics with security matter. Is becoming, at a high level that is becoming scary to even move around Nigeria peacefully. So I think the agencies involved or the security are doing the best, but it's time to tell ourselves the truth and seek the necessary collaboration with the civilians. It's important that the civilians are involved in the security architecture of Nigeria now, more than ever.
Sorry, I'm going to stay with you. I'm going to stay with you on that. You said it's important that the civilians are involved. But yes, another question, as a follow-up to this would be the element of trust. Because some will tell you that, look, the role of the civilians, to a very large extent, has to do with intel. But again, do they trust the security apparatus enough to, protect them and not use whatever intel they have against them, in the future? So I would also like you to address the issue of trust here. Yes, we know that civilians need to be involved. I'd like you to briefly expatiate how, but I'd also want you to talk on the issue of trust. Do you think community members trust these soldiers? Do they trust these security personnel enough?
So it's this trust we've talked about it severally. The Nigerian police, the military has to start doing more social programs to get involved in the welfare of the people. There's been a disconnect with the military, the police, and the civilian. There is no trust. There's a deficit of trust which can be built through intentional practices from both the military. I've seen some improvement from the military of recent and the police on their PRO activities, but it needs to be upped. It needs to be improved. It needs to be 10x what it is today, and to bring the civilians to trust that there is a clean process now in the military, in the police, that the civilians can actually embrace. I think once this is done with the right intention, it's going to really help because the earlier we detect a problem, like they say in disease, the earlier you detect it, the better you can solve it. So the earlier they can get intels from civilians, the better the security can act and, effectively quash those rising before it becomes a problem for the nation.
All right.
Now everyone suffering the results.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Emeka. It's been a pleasure having you speak with us this evening. Chukwuemeka Ezike is a patron of the Civilian Joint Task Force. Also, many thanks to you, sir. Dr. Ishaya Inuwa-Durkwa is the country director, Peace Building and Social Justice. Gentlemen, once again, thank you for your time.